Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. Or maybe this is the first time you're joining us, but every Sunday morning we gather at 6:30 and at 9 to kind of talk about issues that matter to us as people of faith in the greater Joplin area. One of those issues today is going to be a little unpleasant for many of us because it's just not a fun topic. But I think it's important, and that's the reason why I'm really committed to us continuing to talk about it until we're all comfortable enough about it to kind of read the climate in our churches and in our society so that we can prevent some things from happening. One of the things that we are very aware of is the fact that childhood sexual abuse is one of those things that continues to be a plague in our society. And we've got to do all that we can in order to figure out how to identify it and to keep our kids safer. And I've got actually a person who went through that in her own life, Alli Gebhardt, who's going to be with us to share her story and some of her experiences in that regard. So I hope you'll stick with us. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute.
Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S., and now we have an effective tool to screen for it. A low-dose CT uses a lower amount of radiation than a standard chest CT.
Breathe in.
Better detailed pictures than a chest x-ray of small abnormal areas of the lung. A person must be between 55 to 77 years old, asymptomatic, which means they don't have any symptoms such as coughing up blood, chronic cough, shortness of breath, unusual weight loss, or any other worrisome symptoms. They must also be a current smoker or have quit within the past 15 years, also must have a 30-pack year history or more, which equates to smoking 1 pack a day for 30 years, or 2 packs a day for 15 years. People generally avoid these scans possibly due to fear of what could be found. Like many other cancers, if we can detect lung cancer early, it could be very treatable and life-saving.
Well, again, thanks for joining us this morning and for a kind of a rough topic. And so, Alli, I just want to thank you for being with us. Why don't you first introduce yourself a little bit and tell everybody where you're from, and then we'll talk a little bit about what happened to you as a kid.
Okay, thank you for having me. It is a rough topic to talk about. I am a mother of 8 children. I'm what is called a cradle Catholic. I've been a Catholic since I was born. And we were very active in our church. My mother was it's that generation. She was of the generation that priests could do no wrong kind of thing,
Exactly.
you know.
But really we can.
Well, you
and
know.
We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Right. But so it was 70s. It was anyway. I was 8-year-old child. I didn't understand any of what was happening.
Right.
All I knew was this man, who happened to be our priest, was being very kind to me. And I was, the 8th child, and he would, he was being kind, and he would give me little gifts and pay a lot of attention to me, which is something, I really craved. So, I didn't know, and he was grooming me.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And parents have to watch that. They
Sure.
really, really do. Because if anyone, I don't care who it is, Uncle Bob, the neighbor, anybody, the police officer next door, I don't care who they are. If someone is paying too much attention to one of your children or all your children, if it's just doesn't feel right, step in.
Well, it's one of those interesting things. That whole issue of grooming is one of those ways that perpetrators will try to gain a child's trust, and obviously that's what happened to you in that regard. And again, everybody always thinks that stranger danger, but
No.
most of the cases that we are aware of, only 10% are stranger danger. The others are from well-known people who are of some position of influence in a child's life. And that's exactly what happened to you, is this person who was supposed to be a trusted adult in your life kind of started to work his way in.
Yes.
And so, that's one of those signs that we look for, is if, a whole lot of, attention to one or to several kids or to only the kids. And the second thing is, gifts and those kinds of things, which should never be given without the permission of the parents, because all that stuff should be known, in that regard. I mean, I even stopped giving out Tootsie Roll Pops. I'll keep a jar of them in my office. But now, years ago, I'd say, here. But now I say, ask your mom or dad if it's okay that you receive this. Again, our training at that point in time says, no, you don't be giving the kid anything unless mom or dad are aware.
Yes, absolutely. I see too many parents not paying attention to that. And as a mom, that bothers me. They just... if somebody gives your child one thing, or it tells your child one time, your child's cute, whatever, they're probably a normal person. Yeah. But if it just keeps,
but if
going,
it's repetitive,
and it, for me, I was, there's, and I don't know if everybody has it, do they? This inner voice that says,
well, when we do the training now for all of our adults who help with any of our programs, that's one of the things we just ask them all to pay attention to. That little instinct, that mom instinct, that grandma instinct, that grandpa instinct, that dad instinct. And if they don't have it naturally, we try to show them some of those signs by showing them tapes of how perpetrators work, and hearing them tell how they wheedled their way into these families' lives. Again, your mom, was probably, thought it was great flattering that the priest was paying attention to you. But again, too much attention and the wrong kind of attention can be so damaging.
Yes.
In that regard. Yeah. So he worked his way into your life, and then after a period of time, he began to take advantage of you.
Yes.
In a sexual way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you were how old during this time?
9 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But
just a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. The memory didn't come back to me. I had blocked everything. It came back to me about 18, and at that time I told my mother, and she told me that he'd been caught and went to prison. So I thought, okay,
Was she shocked at that point in time that it had happened to you?
She really didn't say much.
Okay.
But he hadn't gone to prison.
He hadn't gone to prison. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
I found out years later. Now, I'm 18 at that point. I'm going to believe my mom, know. If there's internet, I don't know about it, in the 80s. And so there's really no way for me to look anything up. And then, I get married. I have 8 kids to take care of. And you just push that back.
Right.
He's gone to prison. Okay, move on. And I found out, and it's been fairly recently, like within the last 5 years, when the Diocese of Tucson made all of their priests public,
right?
Of what
that were offenders, sure.
That are yes.
And that's become more and more the standard these days. But so this happened in Tucson, and so when Tucson published their list, you suddenly got more information that you didn't have.
Yes.
Yeah.
He died in 1991 from a brain tumor. He was still a priest when he died.
Wow.
He's still at a parish. That really just broke my heart, because if I had known,
you'd have said something sooner.
Oh, I'd have been in Tucson.
Yeah. Well, and again, do you think this is kind of personal, but do you think your mom was mistaken about that, or do you think she was trying to protect you, or what do you think was going on there?
I think there was a little of everything. She's trying to protect me. She was trying to protect,
the church,
the family, the church.
Okay.
We were all, what is the name? Codependent.
Okay.
Very codependent household. We were taught, what happens at home stays at home. My father was a really bad alcoholic, so she she didn't have it easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure she was thinking, if my father found out about this, you know,
Yeah.
he was already anti our faith and, you know, made it so miserable all the time about it anyway. She just, there was a lot of things that come into play. That is the one area that I'm still kind of struggle with just a little bit.
Well, I don't blame you. You know, and I'll just tell you, from, you know, hearing the stories and working on our own review board, you know, sometimes kids, their families didn't believe them at all.
Yeah.
And just said, stop it, I don't want to hear anything more. And then continued that you know, silence that aided and abetted this whole thing for years. And again, you know, your mom's not around, I can't ask her, but I mean, that's not an uncommon experience back in some of those days. And I mean, and again, it's wrong. And all I can do is, I just want to say on behalf of the church and on behalf of priests who try to be good shepherds and don't take advantage of their flock in that regard, I'm sorry. I just am. I'm just sorry. It kind of breaks my heart when I hear these stories, but I still think it's so important that we bring it out into the open so that people don't carry that silence and carry that for years and years and years. I just think it's really, really important.
It is very important. The silence, you know, evil thrives in the silence, you know, and you know, from coming from a codependent growing up, it was, you know, in my younger years, you know, that was my mindset. That's the way I still thought. And I honestly don't know what happened. There was some point in my life, I don't know, it was an aha moment or something where I went, you know what? No more secrets.
Yeah.
You know, no more secrets. And I'm just, you know, and my children tell me, Mom, do you have to be so blunt?
But they're going to get over it.
You know.
But I think this is healthier for you.
Oh yeah.
I think it's much healthier for you.
Definitely.
And I think that your story can be an aid to other people who otherwise might want to carry that sense. Some people carry this stuff, you know, you figured it out 10 years later. Some people have buried it so deep that it only comes out 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years later.
Well, the thing is, it came out at 18, but when my mom said what she said, I did one of the whole sweep it under the rug and go on, you know. And really, until within the last few years, I really hadn't dealt with it. I just, you know, covered it up and went on. And I just decided, you know, most of my kids are grown, not all, but most, and it's time for me to start healing myself and start feeling better and stop. The weirdest thing about all this is the guilt. For some reason, as victims, we carry this guilt, and it's so unhealthy, and it makes no sense. From, you know, if you step back and look at it logically, it makes no sense, but it's still there.
Well, guilt about what? I mean, you know, what's the guilt from? And can it label it for me?
I'm not sure. Like, what did I do? Did I do something to make this person do this to me?
Right.
Did, you know, and I mean, an 8-year-old, come on.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, and that's what we can say to each other rationally.
Yes.
An 8-year-old, what the heck? How can an 8-year-old give consent?
Right.
How can an 8-year-old know what that's about? How can an 8-year-old entice an adult?
Exactly.
That's not, all those things are irrational, but I understand what you're saying now. I just I didn't know what you were, you know, what you were talking about. So yeah. Well, my guest this morning is Alli Gebhardt, and we're talking a little bit about surviving childhood sexual abuse. And in this context, childhood sexual abuse in the church or in a church setting. So we're going to be right back after a real quick break. So don't go away, and we're going to be right back with Alli Gebhardt for our second half.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
Wonderful. Okay,
Fair.
so Allie, we were talking a little bit before the break about your feelings, irrational feelings, even now that still kind of bubble up.
Yes.
That somehow you might have been responsible. Now you know that those are irrational
Absolutely.
feelings,
Yes.
but the feelings are feelings.
Yes.
And they kind of roll over you anyway. Have you done therapy or anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the Diocese of Tucson actually offered to pay for therapy. So I did that for several months, and until the therapist said, she says, I don't know how much more I can do for you, because I had worked through a lot of it on my own. You just kind of do that, But during all the process of the therapy and talking to different people, and I had someone say, have you ever written it down? And I thought to myself, why haven't I written it down? Why? So that's when I wrote the story, and I titled it My Story.
Right.
So because I grew up with, there were 9 of us in the family. I got my mom and dad. These are all people that are involved in all of this. But this is my story.
Right. It's what happened to you.
Yeah, and it's not about anybody else but myself, and that's why I wrote this. I wrote the story so that people would come forward, and they would have the courage to come forward. They would seek help. They would stop feeling guilty, and they're not going to stop feeling guilty, really, I don't think, without therapy. I think they're going to need the therapy to work that out in their minds.
Well, everybody's different, but sometimes you need a coach to remind you of things that you thought you knew or think you know, or those kinds of things. And that's what therapists are for. They're just kind of there to help. They can't fix you, but they can be there while you do what you need to do in terms of processing through it.
Put things in a different perspective.
Right. Yeah.
From a more healthy, clearer perspective. Because when you go through something like that, it's just things are a little skewed, in your mind, and it takes a while to get that worked out.
Well, and that imprints on you as an 8-year-old, and how clearly sometimes do 8-year-olds think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you so you're 8 years old, and now you've got 30 years later, you've got a different perspective on all that. Just like 10 years later, when you remembered it, you had a different perspective and all those kinds of things.
Oh, yes.
It's interesting. I saw your story, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you on. I mean, I first called our diocesan, safe environment coordinator just to see, and I just said, is this, do you think she'd be willing? He said, I think she'd be very happy to come and to share her story. And I'm glad that you have, because I just find it so essential that, again, we bring this out of the darkness and out of the secrets and out of the shadows and out of the shame, because really what we want to be at this point in time is agents of healing.
Yes.
Because the healing is important.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And there's so many people, and for whatever reason, they're not telling, or, and I'm talking about adults, children, whoever, if you're watching and something's happening, reach out to somebody.
Right.
Because it's not your fault. You didn't do anything. You don't deserve it. You need to get some help, and don't worry about what might happen to that person.
Yeah.
That's not your responsibility.
Well, and I agree. And one of the things we just keep telling people all the time is express your concerns. So if you see somebody who's just working their way too close to kids without paying attention to anybody else, or you see those unwanted gifts, or you see somebody that's doing all kinds of unnecessary touch or tickling, and the kids aren't, and the kids aren't even interested in it. Those are the kinds of things that if they give you that creepy feeling on the inside, you're really, all you're doing is expressing your concern. You're not saying, I saw abuse, because if you saw abuse happening, well, you should be calling the police right away.
Yes.
Okay? But if you've just got that concern, that's why everybody has to start speaking up about, I saw something that was like, we've heard too many times after the fact, well, that made me uncomfortable, but I didn't have any proof, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, just still express the concerns.
Yeah.
Please.
Just
talk to somebody about it. Just a reality check, so that somebody else can watch and see. Does that give them the creeps too?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things.
Yes, that is a big thing.
Well, let me ask you a question, because you're here, you're still engaged with the church.
Oh, yes.
I know your kids. Your kids have been through campus ministry, both at Missouri Southern and at Crowder.
Yes.
You got one of them still at Crowder. I
have 2 at Crowder.
Oh, you have 2 at
No,
Crowder.
wait, I have 3 at Crowder.
Well, there you go. See? Well, there you go. And I know one of your daughters went through Southern and has had her wedding of parishioners, and I didn't know any of this stuff, obviously, at that time or whatever.
I did not.
But you're still involved with the church and you're still involved with your faith. Why didn't that run you away? Because it does for so many people. So many people just get so hurt or injured that they just can't stand priests and they can't stand the church. And so what happened in there? Why didn't that happen to you, do you think?
I'm not sure. I look back now and I think, what an incredible gift. I'm so thankful that it didn't do that to me. And maybe it's my personality, because I'm one of those who, if you tell me I can't do something or it's not possible to do, or, I'm going to dig my heels in and I'm going to, and maybe that's part of it. But whatever it was, I'm so very grateful, because I've never wavered from my faith. I've never looked at another priest and thought, ugh. I never have. I've never made that. The connection wasn't there for me. For me, he was a man just who happened to be a priest, Yeah. And I don't know how that happened in my little mind, but I'm glad it did.
Well, I am too, because again, I've just met so many people who are so hurt.
Yes.
And I understand why some of them have walked away. I understand why it's too difficult for some. Yep. And it breaks my heart, really.
It does me too.
Because I still think, all the leaders with feet of clay, which is every single one of us, I might add, okay? But all the leaders with feet of clay, it gets so doubly damaging when somebody is alienated from the faith because of the damage that one of us has done.
Yes.
In that regard. Not saying counting the damage we can do in all kinds of other areas too, but I'm just saying it breaks my heart, and I'm just so glad it didn't happen to you.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed in that area.
Yeah. So again, if we're looking at parents, what words of advice would you give to all the moms and grandmas and everybody out there who have kids that are, because their kids are vulnerable?
The biggest thing is watch people around your kids. Don't just let your kids know the parents of your kids, the parents of your kids' friends. Know those parents. Know their neighbors who happen to be coming over. My big one is, I don't feel like children need to be spending the night at other people's houses. There's a lot of people who disagree with me, but I don't think it's necessary. There is so much space of time for bad things to happen in that, and I'm not saying that you're going to send your kids to some bad place, but what I'm saying is, maybe they're perfectly wonderful people, but Uncle Bill comes over and Uncle Bill's not, but you don't know Uncle Bill's there. I've been called overprotective, maybe, I have been with my kids, but you know what? I don't regret it.
Yeah.
Do not regret it.
Well, I don't think you should have to regret it,
No.
just for loving them and trying to protect them. I don't think they've been overly sheltered, because they all seem fairly socially well adjusted.
Thank you.
Strange, mind you, but all socially well adjusted, But I think your point is well made. And that is that, look what's happening to the Boy Scouts right now. You're hearing 10,000 commercials about the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
We keep having to educate new generations of people on how to protect the environment in our churches. Yes. And I think we should. I think that all that's there. But I think that sometimes that's exactly, unfortunately, what happened is that everybody we wanted to put our trust in was not always trustworthy.
No.
And, when I hear stories about, the priest who took, the kids to the lake house for the weekend. Well, okay, I had a priest friend that took me to the lake house and nothing happened. But how many times did it happen when somebody who didn't have the same intention took those
Yes.
kids to the lake house and things happened? And I just think that I would, a parent, you've got to be really, really, really know well
Yes.
The people who you're going to trust with your kids. And I think it's a point well made.
Yes.
And so, and I think it's also very understandable that with your experience, why you would watch that more than, say, a mom or dad who has never been forced to contend with that.
Yes. One more thing I want to point out that people don't think of, other children that have been abused. They'll abuse your child.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
Sometimes,
not all
yeah.
the time. No,
Right,
not
exactly.
all the time.
And I'm just saying, I don't want to make it a blanket statement, but,
no.
we know in this day and age that there's more incidences of child-on-child abuse
Yes.
than we're ever aware of before in the past.
But I never thought of that.
Yeah.
I mean, after, what I've been through and everything, I never thought of that. I never thought, I had to, because that child may have, had something happen to them. And no, not all of them do it.
Yeah. And that'd be the only caveat I would say to that. And again, unfortunately, I've had to study this stuff almost too much I almost want to, but we do know more and more incidents of child-on-child abuse. And so with our camp programs and all that kind of good stuff, we've just had to, again, up our game.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to leave any of our kids vulnerable.
Yes.
Well, let me say again, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story. I think it's important for everybody who are our viewers to be able to kind of hear that firsthand, because so many times we read about it, it's just a person in the paper or something else. We don't have a face to go along with it.
Yeah.
And today, you're kind of adding an entire backstory for us so that we can kind of hear what your experience was and hopefully learn something from it. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute.
The whole purpose of screening is to catch people who have a significant smoking history early enough where we can do something about it and potentially improve the duration of life. The minimum recommendation for screening is 30-pack years. So usually people who've smoked more than 30-pack years are the ones that we're screening. If we start screening yearly with low-dose CT scans, we can reduce the risk of death from lung cancer by 20 to 25%. Stage 1, 2, and 3 cancers potentially can be cured. When it becomes stage 4, the possibility of cure falls significantly.
Childhood sexual abuse. I hate to say it, but it's a part of our world. It's a part of our culture. It's here. And unfortunately, anyone who has a predatory mindset is going to look for ways to get past our defenses and get to the most vulnerable among us. We cannot for a moment let down our guard. I hope to God that it never happens at a church where I'm the pastor. But the only way I can keep that from happening is to keep my vigilance up, to continue to educate myself and those in my congregation to make sure that we understand what the signs are, what predators will do in order to get past our defenses. And we've got to make sure that all of us together are doing whatever we can to look out and to watch out for the most vulnerable among us. And our kids are among those. So let's continue to take care of each other in this rough world of ours, but it's a good world nonetheless. God bless you. Have a great Sunday. And join us next week for Faith in Our Hometown.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.